Can you
Hello.
you can still see me?
Yeah,
Okay. Hey Neil, David Moore here. World Gone Wild,
I do. I recognize the name immediately. I was like, "Hey, it's David. How are you?"
good. I'm good. It's always nice to talk to you. All right, let's just get right into this. I know you've been doing this all day already. So hopefully I'll ask you something or say something that sparks
Okay.
something new. I called this movie My Fair Lady with a Gun. Um, with I when I talked to Charlotte yesterday, and I think that sort of summarized how I felt about it. It's you're Pygmalion with a twist. Um, say something about the fact that this movie's very well. The last couple of movies and also the forthcoming one are very they're vehicles with Charlotte, and you built this these movies around her, and this one is very much I think she's always very physical in these films, putting everything out there. Say something about kind of building these movies around Charlotte or her persona, and this one is kind of the My Fair Lady with a gun.
That's um that's something that has occurred to me before, and I think that that's possibly the best description of the film with Mind Fair Lady with guns, because it does follow that kind of Pygmalion concept. Philip Winchester is the professor or whatever. That's a really good take on it. Um, yeah, we came up with this. Uh, Although it's the third film that we made together, it was the first film we kind of conceived together because um, we first came up with the concept back in 2018 um, over sushi in London somewhere, and we were talking gangster movies, and suddenly this idea of like, well, what about like doing a female Scarface? What would that be like? And that generated story ideas, and then it just kind of evolved from there. And I don't know whether the Pygmalion thing kind of crept in subconsciously, but it's certainly I get it, it's there. But I finished off a first draft that year, and then uh, the very first draft was to do with cartels in Mexico and drugs and stuff like that. And having read it, it was like, yeah, I've seen all this stuff before a million times. What can we do that's different? So I kind of ripped all that stuff out and then came up with the idea of the diamond trade and Africa. And it was sneakily, from my point of view, it was kind of an excuse to try and go back to South Africa to make something because I love it so much there. Didn't work out that way. We went to Tenerife instead, but the diamond thing still made sense there. And so it just kind of evolved from there. And it was just that process of I do the physical writing and we bounce ideas backwards and forwards and ended up, where we did, several years later.
Well, forgive me if this sounds trite, but I kind of feel like Charlotte has been your muse for the last couple of movies. And I feel like this one is very much it's a love letter to her physicality and her everything that she's ever done so far up to this point. This really catapults her into a place where I feel like we can actually see who Charlotte is a little bit for the first time,
I
even
think
more so in the last couple.
Yeah, I know. I think it is the closest to her. I think as well as the character, because like the other character is this, East End girl, and that's where Charlotte came, grew up. She's an East End girl, so um, yeah, it is by way closer to who she is. Obviously, like the Reckoning, she's not some 17th century peasant girl, and then she's not a pilot and a kind of upper class kind of Brit either. So this plays much closer to home, and I think that she fit into that world better. But then, obviously, like all the physicality and stuff, she had to learn to box, and all the fight sequences were well rehearsed, and shooting guns and all that kind of stuff was very new to her. So, she put her heart and soul into it.
Nice. Well, one thing that I've always really appreciated about your work from the very beginning, and I've been there since the beginning, is that each one of your movies takes a nucleus of an idea or a concept, and they're all unique. It's not like you're making another werewolf movie or another whatever post-apocalyptic or
Mhm.
another Centurion kind of movie. And I love that each one of your movies is like you put a stamp on your own uh, all the genres that you love. And each one of these movies that you've done is so different and unique. It's like you could build a whole franchise just on that one movie that you make. You like make franchise starter movies in a way. Say something about your love for just genre in general and how you just really, you really brand these movies with your touch.
I think because I love genre hopping, so I did some horror films at the start, then I did a post-apocalyptic film, then a Roman movie, then I've done a witch movie and another war film, and now this is a gangster movie, and I love if I'm gonna like go into a genre like that, it's like okay, well, what's all my favorite things about gangster films, and with this one, it was like I wanted to make it feel like a 70s movie or late 60s, 70s movie because I love that vibe of films, be it British gangster movies, Italian Job, and Villain, and Long Good Friday, and all that kind of stuff. But then obviously influenced a little bit by Tarantino and Scorsese, and with voiceovers and captions and a musical score that was like, okay, can we make it sound a bit like Schifrin or something from the 70s, or Roy Budd, massive inspiration as well. Um, so I kind of like to throw everything into the pot and see how it all works together. If I'm going to do that genre, I want to do like an amalgamation of all the good stuff about that genre, I suppose. Um, but it's just that's it. It's just fun exploring those concepts.
Well, I know you've got an erotic thriller coming up, and I'm actually writing a book about erotic thrillers. That's one of my next books. So we'll do something later with that. Um, what other genres or subgenres have you not done yet that are kind of, percolating or whatever in the back?
Um, well, I've got a few projects on the go, and a couple of them are just straight up action films because I think the one thing that links all my films together is action, and that's kind of the action is the juice. I love doing action stuff, and I just thought maybe I should just do couple of straight up action films. So like I've got one thing which is kind of a revenge story, but it's kind of like doing like an Asian action movie, like a Hong Kong movie or a Korean action movie, but like bringing it over to the UK and do something like that, which I thought I've not done that before, and wouldn't that be an interesting blend? And then there's a sort of slightly fantasy action movie, but those kind of things. I'm doing a thriller. I'm doing a sci-fi war movie. Uh, so I'm developing any number of projects at the same time, and they
Nice.
do all be different genres.
Yeah. When you were doing pilots and episodic stuff for premium TV, because you kind of did a foray into that for a while, for quite a few years, and I was hoping you'd come back and do features again. I'm so glad you're back. But while you were doing the episodic stuff, were you able to kind of experiment a little bit with your style and your craft, or because it's so difficult when filmmakers kind of get stuck there, and it's sort of to me it's kind of a graveyard, for really great filmmakers, John Badham or whoever, they just do episodics forever and that's it. Talk a little bit about doing the episodics and working on some of these TV shows that you were involved with.
Well, I mean, yeah, that was the same thing. I got to genre hop a lot, which is what I liked doing about it was like within the space of a year, I could do maybe four projects and I could jump between sci-fi to pirates to Game of Thrones to Hannibal, it's like jumping all over the place. And in some cases, like with something like Game of Thrones, they very much wanted you to bring your directorial ideas to the table and, but within the context of that world. And then with Hannibal, it was kind of like, okay, there are some certain strict rules that you need to follow visually, like the camera can't move too fast. Everything happens at Hannibal speed. Like that's what they said. Literally, that's what I was told. No fast tracking moves, things like that. But if you've got any crazy artistic, notions or ideas or visuals that you come up with, tell us. And we'll see if they work. And I threw all kinds of ideas at them, and they were like, "Wow, that's great. Let's do the red strings as dragon wings, and let's do projection things coming out of people's heads." Anything I threw in there, and they were like, "Yeah, just let your inner pretentious artist come out." And it was like, "Great, that's a little playground to go there." But yeah, within each job, be it Westworld, be it Timeless or Constantine, I got to bring something to the table. I got to explore different ideas as a director, just trying to shoot things in different way and constantly challenge myself. Absolutely, because it does. You don't want to get bored of like, well, let's just shoot it the same way I've done it before. It's like every scene is different anyway, so you have to shoot it differently. You have to come up with new ways. I mean, the worst thing is like, okay, you've got two people sitting at a table talking. How can you shoot that differently? Like trying to come up with new and imaginative ways to do it, but ultimately it boils down to like the performances and the story you're telling, and trying not to get too carried away in the style. It's nice if you can bring something to it, sure, but don't let it. It's all about telling the story. That's the important thing.
Very good. All right, so back to Duchess a bit. I mean, the movie is it's extremely what it should be. It's exactly the kind of movie that I was hoping it would be, and even a little bit more. Like it had more. It was sexier than I thought it was going to be. It was gorier than I thought it was going to be. Like it was like the double cheeseburger with the extra large fries.
Great.
Um, yeah. So say something about like maximizing um what you had on the page and putting as much as you could on camera. And because I realized that it's not a huge budget film, and you were working within a whatever limitations, or I don't know, you'd have to tell me. Yeah, say something about that.
Yeah, I mean, it is what it is as far as the limitations are concerned, but you go down and you try and do the best you possibly can. But I want it to be an entertaining experience. I wanted it to be fun. I wanted, and I think sometimes like just going a little bit over the top with certain things makes it more fun. And I was never trying to tell some like gritty, realistic story. It's meant to be escapist fun. So I wanted to get the one-liners in there, get the fun. I want it to be, when I'm going to do violence, I can't help but bring my horror sensibilities to that kind of stuff. Of like that would be really gnarly, but if you take it to a certain point, it's entertaining and it's fun. It's not going to be offensive to anybody, and like it is what it is. So these characters should be larger than life, and everything they do should be larger than life within that world. So I think that all that kind of fit together. But that's just it's just fun and games, right?
Yeah. Well, as far as your work with Charlotte so far, I mean, I have no idea if you intend to continue making movies with her or not. You can say yes or no, or you don't have to answer that. But you do have another one coming out that I'm very interested in. Say something about just like I told her yesterday. I mean, I was like, it seems like Neil could make you, put you in space. You could be in space in the next one, or you could be Lady James Bond in another one. It feels like she's a really great, you know, action heroine kind of a person that you could just build anything around her. She's really cool. Say something about that.
Well, I mean, what I will say is that the next one is the last one. It's kind of like it's time to set her free into the world. That she should be going off and making other people's movies. But yeah, so I mean, but it was an opportunity to do this the erotic thriller as that one, which is kind of combined genres because it's part erotic thriller, part sort of giallo slasher movie, and sort of my homage to giallo and all those kind of films. So again, it's like mixing genres and throwing everything in and trying to make something fresh that I've not seen before, and it's very different from the last thing that we did together. So, I think we made 4 films, and they're all very, very different in different aspects to her character and the characters she plays. So it's interesting. So you're curious to know what you think of it.
Okay, cool. I think I've got one more question. It's just a fun question, I guess. What have you seen lately that you're kind of excited about? I mean, I could probably ask you about Furiosa or whatever. What movies have you seen lately that you've been really like, hey, that was a really good one. Tell me some stuff that you've seen lately.
Well, I saw Deadpool, like I'm sure a lot of other people did. I saw that, I had a great time with that. Very funny. Haven't laughed so much in a long time. I went to see Furiosa twice on the big screen. Loved it. I think it certainly is an interesting companion piece to Fury Road. I don't think it's as good as Fury Road, but I think by watching it, it enhances Fury Road, which is no bad thing. Um, so yeah, that was interesting. It certainly has a few show-stopping sequences in it, but Fury Road is a tough act to follow. So under any circumstances. And the only thing that annoys me about it is that because it hadn't done so well, we're not going to get the final Tom Hardy thing, which is
I
really
know that. Yeah, it breaks my
that
heart.
kills, that kills me. Um, I wish somebody would just go out with Mel Gibson and just make a super low budget post-apocalyptic Mad Max movie, but unfortunately, I don't think George will allow that.
Yeah, yeah, it sucks. Well, anyway, Neil, thank you. You're great. That's it. That's all I got for you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, man. Take care.
All right, talk.